Happy World of 5FM Radio, your adult contemporary radio station in Zambia, connecting you to the newsmakers and events that make news in the global village.
And now, with the main news bulletin, this is Curtis Lumingu.
Good morning, this is 5FM Main News, the headlines. UPND administration urged to stop silencing its critics using the defamation of the president law. Government urged to strengthen institutions providing oversight in the fight against corruption. And at least 18 civilians killed in Al-Shabaab attack in Somalia. And now the news in detail. The Economic Front Party has challenged the UPND administration to stop using the police to arrest and silence citizens, especially those perceived to be critical of their governance, using the defamation of the president law. Party chairperson for Information and Media, Fudays Nsensema, tells 5FM News that defamation of the president is an archaic law which cannot be continued to be used in this modern day of democracy, which promotes freedom of speech and expression. Mr. Nsensema feels if this continues to happen, Zambians will continue to perceive the police service as unprofessional and being used by politicians. He said the arrest of Patriots for Economic Progress leader Sean Tembo and his detention is unnecessary and uncalled for, and has since called for his release unconditionally. Mr. Tembo was apprehended on Thursday for defaming the president.
This is an archaic law which cannot be continued to be used in this modern day of democracy, which promotes freedom of speech and freedom of expression. If this continues to happen, Zambians will continue to perceive the police service as unprofessional and being used by politicians.
Private Sector Development Association chairperson Yusuf Dodia says the approved $1.3 billion United States International Monetary Fund IMF support program will not bail out the country from anything, as it is too minimal compared to the country's debt levels. The IMF program aims to restore Zambia's macroeconomic stability through fiscal adjustment and debt restructuring and strengthening economic governance. Speaking in an interview with 5FM News, Mr. Dodia says there is no need for the country to go to sleep because in the next 2 to 3 years, it will need to come up with another strategy that will supersede the IMF program in order to revive the economy. Mr. Dodia has reiterated that there is need for the country to develop a homegrown strategy in order to continue developing the country's economy and deal with the country's debt.
We need to develop a homegrown strategy for continuing to develop our economy, for dealing with the debt that we acquire, and for finding a way to industrialize and grow our economy. So my view is that, yes, it's a welcome development that we have signed off with IMF, but let us not go to sleep. We need to recognize that within the next 2 or 3 years, we need to have come up with another strategy that is going to supersede the IMF program so that we are able to resurrect our economy.
An economist, Trevor Hambai, has urged the government to strengthen institutions that are mandated to provide oversight in the fight against corruption at the country's border points and other areas where corruption is rampant. Commenting on the recent impounding of 6 trucks laden with mukula logs and precious stones by the Zambia National Service ZNFU in Kafue as well, Mr. Hambai observes these offences happened during the previous regime and that they could have been pursued at the time they were committed. He has therefore urged the UPND administration to act against those engaging in corrupt activities, regardless of their political affiliation.
It is not that they don't know this. They know that the offence has been committed, but they abrogate the responsibility because these people are politically connected. This has to change. And this basically speaks to the issues around our law enforcement agencies, DEC, ACC, and the Zambia Police. All these ones must be able to execute regulatory responsibility of having to arrest people who commit crimes, irrespective of what their position is. And this is what is going to change the dynamics around people thinking that they can do these things and get away because of their position.
The Operation Young Vote has emphasized the need for political parties to exhibit maturity by engaging in issue-based campaigns so that people and tranquility can continue to prevail ahead of the Kavushi, Kwacha and Luangwa by-elections. Organization Executive Director Gez Nyirenda has also advised political parties participating in these by-elections to avoid politics of using hate speeches as they have the potential to cause political violence. Meanwhile, Mr. Nyirenda is delighted with the peaceful atmosphere that has so far characterized Luangwa, Kavushi and Kwacha constituencies. He has commended the Electoral Commission of Zambia ECZ for instituting peaceful dialogue among the youths of various political parties participating in these elections, which he said has contributed to the prevailing atmosphere.
The tranquility and peace, Kavushi and Kwacha and even Luangwa, they are very calm. And for us, this we attribute to number one, the Electoral Commission of Zambia. The Electoral Commission of Zambia has instituted tranquility and peace dialogues amongst the young people of these respective constituencies, coming from various political parties, especially those that are contending or participating in the election.
Save the Children, an independent organization for children, has advised parents to be present in terms of relating to their children emotionally and physically so that it is easy for them to detect if there is any attitude or behavior that is happening with their children. Recently, a mother giving details of how her 6-year-old son has been repeatedly sodomized by fellow juveniles emerged on social media, shocking stakeholders across sections of society. Commenting on this development, Organization Advocacy and Campaigns Coordinator Hamis Maunda says parenting in the modern day must become skillful and deliberate in terms of accessing information on how to relate to children. He says the current society has information everywhere, hence the need for parents to know where the children are accessing the information and what they are doing with it.
Access to internet, access to television. Parents must not take for granted parental guidance restrictions that are put on these platforms. We see today that parents will be watching television that's rated 16 years and above with children that are way below 16 years. And these, children are picking up habits. There are new forms of cartoons now that act lifestyle at a higher level. It's cartoons. You expect that they should be, content for young ones, but the lifestyles that are being portrayed are those of adults, and children are picking those.
That item brings us to the end of the news, but before we go, a recap of the top stories. UPND administration urged to stop silencing its critics using the defamation of the president law. Government urged to strengthen institutions providing oversight in the fight against corruption. And at least 18 civilians killed in Al-Shabaab attack in Somalia. For more news, visit our website on www.5fm.co.zm or like us on Facebook, 5FM Radio Zambia. Remember to abide by the tenets of the new normal by observing frequent hand washing, sanitizing, social distancing, and wearing a face mask in public places. Stay safe and stay tuned to 5FM. I am Curtis Lumingu. Good morning.